Just crack him and he would just fire back at you, and he knocked a lot of people out just because he could take a shot so well.
During his championship reign, Chuck Liddell appeared invincible. This dominance came at a steep price, as Liddell constructed his legacy by weathering brutal punishment, eating heavy shots, and believing his iron jaw would never fail him.
Fighting. He shouldn't be fighting. At 50, he clearly can't take a punch anymore.
When voices began pleading for his retirement, the deterioration was unmistakable. Critics could go to hell, he thought.
Somebody was picking on you, bullying you, maybe even hitting you, and you stood there with your hands by your side, your fist balled up, your hands by your side, and the daycare teacher was like, "Why are you not fighting back?"
Well, my mom told me I wasn't allowed to fight. I wasn't allowed to hit anybody, so, I wouldn't do it. I mean, it's my mom said I can't, so I guess I'll just sit here and take it. But and it happened a few times, and he finally called my mom and talked to her and said, "You got to let him defend himself. We can't be there every time something's happening." And he's just letting him. And I was like, okay, So she took me to my grandfather and had him teach me some straight punches, and started throwing punches. And as far as defending myself, the rest is history.
Nobody felt surprised when news emerged suggesting Chuck might be suffering from traumatic brain injuries. This represented the inevitable conclusion of a destructive cycle his aggressive fighting approach had created. This chronicles how MMA's most intimidating champion exceeded his physical boundaries and suffered the consequences. Charles David Liddell entered the world December 17, 1969, in Santa Barbara, California, raised by his mother and grandparents. His grandfather introduced him to fundamental boxing techniques during childhood.
It was Koikan Karate-Do was my first style. I was black belt. I won our nationals for our style.
Beginning Koikan karate training at 12 years old, Liddell would eventually ink those words onto his scalp, honoring this martial arts foundation.
People probably don't have any idea that you have a business degree.
I wanted to get a PE degree, but my grandma didn't believe that was a real major. So I had to pick a major when I was a freshman. I picked accounting. I was good at it.
Outside of organized sports, however, he developed a reputation for toughness in a different way. Liddell often found himself involved in street fights, where his size, strength, and early martial arts training set him apart from his peers.
I used to even say in high school, I used to say, man, it sucks. Well, the thing I'm really good at, I can't make money doing. And I was talking about street fighting. I was going to Cal Poly at the time. I was like 19, I think. One of the resident wrestling practices goes to me, by any chance, did you jump off a car and kick a guy in the head? Yeah. How do you know?
Did you lose any fights in high school? Was there anybody you fought that somebody caught you, or did you ever none? So you don't remember ever?
His athletic gifts earned him admission to California Polytechnic State University for Division I wrestling competition. He earned his business accounting bachelor's degree in 1995, switching from physical education after his grandmother dismissed it as illegitimate.
I got called into an old karate school. And they called me in because they had a black belt coming in to spar. I came in and it was John.
So I get there and the guy goes, "Oh yeah, well, I can't really fight you, so you're going to go with one of my students." There it was Chuck, and I was like, okay, all right, I'm going to go. I gave my card before I left and just said, if you ever really want to learn, the sport part of it or whatever, and give me a call. And
so I called him up and I practiced phone. I'm like, hey, he's like, yeah, come on up. Let's go. Let's train.
Liddell established credibility through amateur kickboxing with 20 victories against 2 defeats, scoring 16 knockouts. He captured dual national amateur kickboxing titles. During this period, he encountered John Hackleman, an experienced kickboxer coaching at the Pit Gym in San Luis Obispo.
How did you get your nickname?
My trainer, John Hackleman, gave it to me. I think it was like my 3rd or 4th kickboxing fight. He came looking for me, couldn't find me. He finally found me. I was sleeping. He's like, "You don't get nervous before every fight?" No. They started calling me Iceman because I don't get nervous before fights.
He was the Iceman. I've never seen him lose his cool.
Despite his success, the sport offered little financial security at the time, and he often struggled to make ends meet.
I was having a lot of fun, but I wasn't making any money. And the UFC had come along during that time, but no one knew how to get into it.
During this period, he even considered leaving combat sports altogether to find a steady job that could support him long term.
So I was close to going back and getting a real job. I graduated in accounting right around 97.
Hackleman transformed into Liddell's cornerstone mentor, polishing Chuck's natural power into the devastating striking system that would eventually propel him to UFC supremacy. Hackleman also coined Chuck's legendary moniker,
Dana was actually managing, I think, Tito. And Wayne Harriman, who's friends with Tito and Dana, was a friend of mine and went to see me train with Tito. And he actually told Dana, you might want to sign this guy. He might be better than Tito. So Dana signed me then. And he's my manager. So he's managing me and Tito.
Simultaneously.
Yeah.
Well, before the UFC, I managed both Chuck and Tito. So, you know, I did have a relationship with both guys.
It was awesome. I traveled around for a long time trying to promote the sport. I did a lot of things trying to just get the sport out there.
Making his professional mixed martial arts entrance at UFC 17 in Mobile, Alabama during 1998, he outpointed Noe Hernandez via unanimous decision. Before reaching the premier stage, Liddell connected with Dana White, then operating as a fighter manager.
I'm telling you, when Chuck Liddell was in his prime, he was one of the most terrifying fucking human beings that's ever walked the face of the earth.
Liddell encountered early adversity during his UFC journey. At UFC 19 in 1999, he suffered his lone submission defeat when Jeremy Horn secured an arm triangle choke. He responded with crushing performances between 2000 and 2002, overwhelming Paul Jones, Kevin Randleman, Murilo Bustamante, and Vitor Belfort. Traveling to Japan May 27, 2001, he demolished Guy Mezger via second-round knockout at Pride 14, becoming the inaugural UFC athlete competing in Japan's premier promotion.
It was in Tito's head big time because every time they trained together, Tito would get beat up. I'm talking drop him on the ground and Tito refusing to get back up. Chuck would want to hook up and spar and whatever, and Tito would never want to spar.
When we trained together, I took him down way more than he took me down.
No way.
But that's why he didn't want to fight me, because he couldn't out wrestle me. And then when we're striking, I used to drop him with body shots, and he never dropped me.
He never dropped you?
No, never.
Absolutely, positively would not fight Chuck because he knew he couldn't beat Chuck.
Champion Tito Ortiz declined fighting him since they had trained together and Ortiz understood Liddell's capabilities.
The other event got fucking huge, and then Chuck Liddell came onto the scene.
Yes.
And when Chuck Liddell was the champion, Chuck Liddell was so fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
He was this do or die berserker. He would just come at you, just swinging bombs, take one on the chin, knock dudes out. His fights were wild.
He didn't give a shit.
He was the real reason why the UFC became uber popular, because you would watch The Ultimate Fighter and it was a wild fight, a great fight, but then you need a destroyer.
Right.
You need a destroyer, and that
Yeah.
destroyer was Chuck Liddell. And
Okay.
for the run where he was at the top, where Chuck Liddell was just murking people.
So he was kind of like the Michael Jordan in that.
The UFC established an interim light heavyweight championship, pitting Liddell against Randy Couture at UFC 43 in 2003. Couture neutralized Liddell's sweeping hooks with straight punches and clinch work, securing takedowns for a TKO victory. Liddell later entered Pride's 2003 middleweight Grand Prix, knocking out Alistair Overeem initially, but falling to Quentin Rampage Jackson via second-round TKO in the semifinals. After Ortiz resolved his contractual issues and lost to Couture, the path cleared for Liddell versus Ortiz at UFC 47 in April 2. Liddell fulfilled expectations, knocking out Ortiz in round 2. Early 2005 saw Liddell coaching the debut Ultimate Fighter season opposite Couture. The show achieved massive success. Then April 16, 2005, at UFC 52, Liddell flattened Couture in round 1, claiming the UFC light heavyweight championship.
His fights when he knocked out Tito Ortiz, like, oh my God, he was a monster.
Right.
He was a monster.
I knew Chuck Liddell was going to win those fights. I knew he was. He had Tito's number. Tito couldn't deal with Chuck's style, his power, his wrestling. Tito couldn't take Chuck down, and Chuck was 1,000,000% in Tito's head.
It was Liddell's 4th consecutive title defense, and it emphatically reaffirmed his dominance over his rival.
By the end of
He essentially elevated the entire sport to unprecedented heights. Between 2005 and 2007, Liddell successfully defended his championship 4 occasions, defeating Jeremy Horn, Randy Couture in their trilogy conclusion, Renato Sobral, and Tito Ortiz in their sequel. The second Ortiz encounter at UFC 66 generated the most lucrative UFC event to that date. Liddell competed with a torn MCL, yet stopped Ortiz in the 3rd frame.
Rampage wasted little time in the rematch. He caught Liddell with a right hook in the 1st round, dropping him, and followed up with ground strikes to score a knockout just 1 minute 53 seconds into the fight. In a flash, Chuck Liddell's reign as champion was over.
Left up to the bottom. Champion!
It was a stunning defeat, the first knockout loss of Liddell's UFC career, and it marked a turning point.
Chuck, you've been the most dominant light heavyweight champion in the history of the UFC.
By 2006, Chuck Liddell had eliminated virtually every top challenger, becoming the UFC's poster child. His mohawk, tattooed scalp, and knockout celebrations achieved legendary status. He accomplished an unprecedented 7 consecutive UFC knockouts. However, every dominant champion eventually faces their downfall. For Liddell, judgment arrived in 2007. May 26, 2007, at UFC 71, he defended against Quinton Rampage Jackson, who had previously defeated him in Japan 4 years prior. Now, UFC gold hung in the balance.
When Chuck was young, he was known for having like a granite chin. You could just crack him and he would just fire back at you, and he knocked a lot of people out just because he could take a shot so well. And then one day, it just stopped working.
Reports emerged of Liddell frequenting nightclubs during fight week, with critics questioning his dedication. Liddell dismissed this as standard Vegas preparation, yet lifestyle debates intensified. 4 months later, Liddell returned against Keith Jardine without adequate recovery time. Jardine's unorthodox style and leg kicks earned him a split decision victory, marking Chuck's 2nd consecutive defeat.
Yeah, and then the knockouts came, like Rampage KO'd him, and then other people were KOing him, and then it just got to a point where it's just like one good punch and you would just go out. It's like your brain knows you're so tough, and it's like, hey, we got to protect this guy. He's stupid. He's going to keep getting hit, so let's just shut off.
December 2007 brought Liddell against Wanderlei Silva at UFC 79. Both knockout specialists, with aggressive approaches, delivered 3 explosive rounds. Liddell secured unanimous decision victory in what became 2007's Fight of the Year. This triumph would prove his final MMA career victory.
Yeah. When I got to the weigh-in and we did the face-off, for me, I was like, oh, man, Chuck looks serious, because I watched him so many times. That's when I really started to think man, I'm fighting Chuck Liddell. So that's when, for me, the nerve started. And then I hit up Randy Couture, who just happened to be a floor below me, and I go and see Randy, and I'm like, oh man, Randy, I'm scared, man. I'm scared. And Randy's like, what's going on? He's like, oh man, I just can't shake this feeling, man. I'm just so nervous about tomorrow, and I don't want to get beat up and knocked out in front of everybody. And the best advice I ever got, he said, you got to make friends with the worst enemy. When you make friends with the worst enemy, you understand that life will go on. And then I worked myself up into a lather just thinking about it, yeah, I got to face my fears. I got to face my worst enemy.
Throughout 2008, accumulated damage from years of brutal warfare began overwhelming the Iceman. September 6, 2008, at UFC 88, Liddell faced Rashad Evans.
It was crazy.
And he didn't get up.
It was such a flush shot.
The brutal loss was a sobering moment, and many observers thought it might be the end of the road for Chuck.
Because his style was so aggressive, that people could just set, boom, and counter, like Rashad Evans did with him. And so you're getting his momentum coming forward and the shot.
During the 2nd round, Evans unleashed one of UFC history's most brutal knockouts, a single overhand right rendering Liddell unconscious.
I care about him. I care about his health. And it's over, man. We all turned 40. It's over. Listen, I've been pushing for retirement. He's my friend. I love him. I care about him. We sat down. We had a 2-hour talk. He wanted to do this. He fucking has nothing to prove. Nothing to prove. He doesn't have to prove anything to me, the rest of the world. He's got shitloads of money. There's no reason for it.
Liddell returned April 2009 against Mauricio Shogun Rua at UFC 97. Shogun halted Liddell via first-round TKO. Following this defeat, UFC President Dana White publicly questioned whether Liddell should retire.
Chuck told me before the season started, when I asked him to do it, he said, I guarantee you, Tito will not fight me. We'll do this show and he'll pull out of the fight, I guarantee it. And that's why when Tito pulled out, I was like, holy shit. Chuck was right, and, I had to go tell Chuck that Tito pulled out. Tito pulled out of the fight.
That fucking pussy. Don't let that guy fight anymore, man. He's a fucking pussy.
They agreed upon one final contest, originally planned against Tito Ortiz. After coaching opposite sides on Ultimate Fighter's 11th season, but Ortiz withdrew injured.
Chuck Liddell came in. He worked hard for this thing, and I think him and Rich Franklin tonight fought the type of fights that made them both famous and made them both world champions tonight. Those two went at it. He means a lot to this company, and he means a lot to the sport. He means a lot to me personally. He was a great champion. He was a great business partner. He's always going to have a home with the UFC. He gave it his last shot. You know what? He went out like Chuck Liddell would. Came out blasting, bombing, tried to put Rich away in the slugfest, and he gave the fans a good last fight with the X-Man.
Liddell's final UFC appearance came against Rich Franklin at UFC 115 in June 2010, getting knocked out at the first round's conclusion, his third straight knockout defeat.
People asked me for a long time why I stuck around so long. Like, if I was getting my ass kicked and then getting knocked out, it would have been a lot easier to hang it up. I was getting paid really well, and I was winning fights and then just getting caught. So you always think, oh man, I can fix that. We had a dinner together. I said, look, man, I can't figure out why this happened. I can't compete the way I used to. So, I'm done.
And I'm here today with my partner, Lorenzo Fertitta, to announce his retirement. Myself, my partners owe a lot to Chuck Liddell. And we're also here today to announce that he is becoming one of the top executives in the UFC. Chuck Liddell is now the new Executive Vice President of Business Development.
July 10th, 2009 saw Liddell's UFC Hall of Fame Pioneer Wing induction, followed by formal retirement announcement at UFC 25's press conference. December 29th, the UFC appointed him Vice President of Business Development in a supposedly permanent role.
And Chuck Liddell and Tito are fighting, so what else you got?
Ooh, what do you think of that?
Not my cup of tea, but,
You're going to watch it.
For sure. Well,
I'm going to watch it.
Yeah, we'll watch it. We might do a fight companion for it.
Some people say it shouldn't happen. Right?
Oh, no. I don't think it shouldn't happen. I look at it more like I think if Chuck Liddell was still employee of the UFC getting paid $400,000 just to chill or whatever he was doing for the UFC, he would not be fighting. I think it's more of a money play, which bums me out. Because I think Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz, what they did for the sport, should be compensated for the rest of their lives. It bums me out they have to fight to make money. That bums me out.
When new ownership purchased the UFC for $4 billion in 2016, widespread restructuring eliminated Chuck Liddell and fellow Hall of Famer Matt Hughes from executive positions, ending his lifetime employment. In 2018, 48-year-old Liddell announced his comeback, targeting a third Tito Ortiz bout under Oscar De La Hoya's Golden Boy Promotions rather than UFC.
Can't be fighting. He shouldn't be fighting. At 50, he clearly can't take a punch anymore.
Dana White vehemently opposed this fight, calling the California State Athletic Commission's approval disgusting, arguing he had retired Liddell in 2010 specifically for health protection.
He just felt like he always had Tito's number. But this is the problem, is like Tito wins now. When it all said and done, Tito KO'd him. And he KO'd him more soundly than Chuck ever KO'd Tito. Yeah, Tito put Chuck out. He put him out. You're dealing with a guy whose brains are, it's just, he's been scrambled too many times.
He didn't immediately make a retirement speech in the cage, but the consensus in the MMA community was that this would be the end. And in March 2020, Chuck Liddell confirmed he had retired from MMA competition again, this time for good.
November 24, 2018, Liddell and Ortiz entered the cage one final time at Inglewood's Forum, with Ortiz knocking out Liddell at 4:24 of round 1. This marked Liddell's 7th career knockout loss and 4th consecutive dating to...
He has been saying that he misses it. It was his favorite thing.
Yeah, I miss playing baseball.
He misses it.
To me, it's more of a sad story.
See, I think Tito, he might actually want this fight just to fight Chuck again.
On November 24th, 2018, Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz stepped into the cage one last time.
The California State Athletic Commission imposed an indefinite medical suspension, effectively banning him from U.S. competition. The Guardian called it a repugnant spectacle, with critics arguing it unnecessarily exposed Liddell to additional brain trauma.
All done the right way at the right time.
I don't have any regrets. I had a great time. I mean, it was fun. I got paid a lot of money to do what I love for a living, and my body held together pretty dang well.
March 2020 brought Liddell's permanent MMA retirement confirmation. The consequences of Chuck Liddell's career extended beyond his fighting cessation, as accumulated damage from years of savage exchanges haunted his retirement. October 11, 2021, Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies responded to domestic disturbance calls at Liddell's Hidden Hills residence. A verbal dispute between Liddell and wife Heidi Northcott escalated to physical confrontation, witnessed by their daughter, though she couldn't identify the aggressor. Liddell displayed slight facial redness and chest marking, while Heidi showed no visible injuries. Liddell faced misdemeanor domestic battery arrest, booking at Malibu Lost Hills Sheriff's Station before $20,000 bail release. Hours later, Liddell posted on Instagram, claiming victimhood, stating he volunteered for arrest protecting his wife despite sustaining injuries, acknowledging failed attempts shielding family mental health issues from public scrutiny, and declaring the relationship's end. October 18th saw the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office decline filing charges, citing insufficient evidence in this cross-complaint case, with mutual accusations. 4 days post-incident, Liddell filed for divorce from his 2009 partner and mother of their 2 children. Divorce proceedings lasted nearly 4 years until September 2022. Custody evaluation documents revealed disturbing allegations from Heidi Northcott. She claimed Liddell exhibited chronic traumatic encephalopathy signs, the degenerative brain condition from repeated head trauma. Court filings reported by The Blast quoted her stating, his numerous knockouts caused CTE, memory problems, speech difficulties and future dementia or Alzheimer's risks, plus terrible sleep apnea. Northcott alleged additional mental health issues, including depression, paranoia, impulsivity, and drug and alcohol escapism, describing increasingly erratic and violent behavior. While CTE requires post-mortem brain examination for definitive diagnosis, Liddell's career provided concerning evidence through 7 knockout losses, 4 consecutive in his final 5 fights, plus his aggressive style absorbing heavy strikes and years of full-contact sparring. Liddell's brain health concerns preceded 2022 allegations, with journalists noting slurred speech and word-searching during a 2007 Good Morning Texas appearance showed him drowsy, slurring words, and dozing mid-interview, prompting Nevada State Athletic Commission drug testing before his next fight, which he passed. Years later, Liddell revealed he had been ill, partied the previous night, and taken excessive Ambien with lingering effects preventing him from recalling travel from Texas to California. Custody evaluation recommended joint custody for both parents with mandated random drug testing. The divorce finalized April 2025, with terms including joint legal and physical custody, $5,000 monthly child support, $700,000 education fund, medical expense coverage, and $771,000 one-time spousal support to Heidi. Liddell's attorney Juliana Loyola stated they had quashed numerous false allegations against Chuck, reaching settlement outside court while emphasizing Chuck's dedication as a father prioritizing his children. October 2025 brought Liddell's remarriage to Heidi Ray in Las Vegas. Liddell has pursued proactive brain health measures, visiting Columbia's BioAccelerator in 2024 for stem cell treatments targeting joint swelling reduction, CTE prevention, and longevity extension at a facility conducting clinical trials for concussion syndrome and Liddell's situation reflects broader MMA challenges, lacking player association or pension systems, unlike NFL or boxing, leaving retired fighters facing physical and financial burdens without union-backed healthcare or retirement funds, often resorting to crowdfunding or unrelated employment. The Guardian highlighted former fighter struggles and inadequate protections against exploitative comebacks driven by financial desperation. Liddell also suffered 2007 real estate fraud when investing with developer Kelly Gerhardt, who later pled guilty to wire fraud and money laundering after escrow officers improperly released Liddell's funds and allegedly forged signatures without transferring property. Liddell won nearly $2 million damages in 2015. Despite everything, Liddell's pioneering legacy endures through podcasts, promotional events, and UFC appearances. 2025 interviews showed him praising modern fighters like Alex Pereira as authentic competitors. His story represents both celebration and cautionary tale as Liddell helped transform MMA from niche spectacle into global phenomenon, drawing millions to events and inspiring new fighter generations. Yet his aggressive chin-forward style carried long-term consequences. As of 2026 at age 56, Liddell continues navigating health challenges, with his ex-wife's CTE allegations remaining unconfirmed, but aligning with patterns seen in other combat sports athletes, including memory issues, speech difficulties, sleep apnea, and mood changes. The lingering question remains whether his body maintained its integrity as he believes, and crucially, whether his brain did as well. This concludes our examination, so explore more compelling content, through the suggested videos displayed on your screen.